Okay, now in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a beautiful home page using the Elementor page builder. And like I've said in my prior videos, even if the home page that I'm going to design right now, it's going to be beautiful, but if it's not what you want, you still should go through this process, because by going through this process, you're going to learn exactly how to use this page builder and exactly how to make anything that you want. So right now, this is what our homepage looks like, but in a little bit here, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to have this beautiful headline, and we're going to have these buttons, and it's just going to be amazing like this. And you can make it look however you want, but this is what I'm going to teach you right now. So let's get started. So first, what I want you to do is upload some images to your WordPress website that we're going to use in the template there. So I need you to click on this media icon right there, and it's going to take us here to your media library. Now you should only have this one image in here, and this is actually the image from that default course that we had added when we were installing the learning management plugin, and that's how we ended up getting this image. But what we need to do is upload the images that are included with what you downloaded earlier in one of the videos there. We just need to upload those, and those are the images we're going to use in these templates to get them all set up. So right here is those downloads. If you double click where it says page templates, there should be a folder that says template images, and when you click on it, it's going to show this variety of images right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add new, and then I'm just going to drag and drop all these images into this space right here. So I'm going to highlight them and drag and drop them, and you're going to see they're all uploading right now. Now this might take a sec because there's quite a few images, and some of them are on the larger size. So, and it's real easy to delete images. Oops, we got that in there twice. I'm going to have to click on that and delete it. So I clicked on it, and let's see, oh, here it is, delete permanently. Let's get that out of there. All right, so that image is gone. And so here's the images we're going to use for the template. Now the homepage we're going to create is really just using this image and that image right there, but the other two homepage templates that I've included are going to use the variety of other images that you see now available to you on your WordPress-based website. So let's get to building. So I'm going to click on pages, and then for the home page, I'm just going to click right here where it says edit with Elementor. Now, if I hadn't already gone through this page in the prior video, what you would want to instead do is click into it and make sure that the template right here is set to full width. Okay, full width is going to have that full capability of integration with Elementor, and that's the option that we want right there. But I already have that set, so if you didn't, just choose that and click on update. But now I'm going to go ahead and click on edit with Elementor. It's going to take a sec, and then it's going to pop up into the Elementor page builder. Okay, everybody, this is where the fun happens. We are going to build this page right here, step by step. And this is where we are starting from. So I'm going to give you just a 60-second overview of what a page builder is and how every page is structured. So every website page that you go to on the internet is going to be broken down into a series of sections. In those sections, you can have rows and columns. And then inside those rows and columns, you're going to have text or images or some kind of element. And so that's exactly how this is. So this area right here is a whole section, and this is a row with this headline, a row with this subheadline, and another row here with this button, and that is a section. And when you scroll down, this is a different section, and it has this beautiful image in the background. I'm going to show you how to do that. It might be hard to notice, but there's a bit of a texture on the top and the bottom of it. I'm going to show you how to do that. But this one actually has two columns. Now I did some tricks to make one larger than the other and to make it appear that it's on top of the other, but that's essentially all this is a section with two columns. And this is a section with three columns. And this right here is a section with 2 columns. And guess what? One column has this image and the other one has this bit of text right here. And then this is a 2-column section. And then I flipped it right here, and then I flipped it here again. And this is a section with 3 columns. Anyways, you get the point. I don't need to go on and on. So that is essentially all that any web page is. It's a series of sections with rows and columns, and you put things in these rows and columns. Now everything's going to be drag and drop. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add a new section. So I'm going to click on Add a New Section, and then it immediately gives me these column options or these layout options. So this is going to be a 2-column, and I'll be using that for that second section. And then here's a 3-column. I'll be using this exact structure when I'm doing the testimonials, and on and on. So let's get started. I'm going to just choose this section right here, and now I have it right there. So when I hover over it, I've got 1 column in it, and if I click on this, I can have some settings for the column. If I click right here where it says section, I can, like this, it's going to show me a settings panel right here for this entire section. Now everything has these setting panels. So a section has it, a column has it, and each individual element, like a headline or a testimonial box, they'll have their own set of settings as well. So they're always typically broken down into 3 different settings panels. The middle one's going to be your style, and that's the way it's visually going to look. Colors, font options, etc., etc., and then some advanced options. And then this first option panel for each thing we click on will be specific to what it is. So since I'm in a section, it's showing me a layout option. And I'm not going to change any of these. And then we have this style option here. This background I'm going to leave is white. And then we have this advanced option. So what I need is, when I'm looking right here, I need to have a headline, a subheadline, and a button. So let me go ahead and toss those elements in here. So I'm going to click on the dial pad right here. I want a headline. I'm going to drag and drop it. And then I want another headline. So I can either click on the dial pad and drag a new one in, or on these elements, if I hover over it, off to the right of it, there's a little duplicate button right here. So if I click on this, it's going to duplicate it. So now I've got my 2 headlines right there. And now I want a button. So I can scroll up and down here to find a button. I know it's right there, but there's a little search box right here. So I could start typing button if I wanted, like that, and there it is. Obviously, I already know where it is, but when you start having lots of elements, sometimes a search feature makes it more convenient. So I'm going to drag and drop the button in right there, and I want it to be underneath. So I have these elements right here. Now I can go and center each one if I wanted to, but there's a really neat option in the section right here, the section settings, where I can center everything. So I want to do it that way because that makes more sense to me. So I'm going to click right here where it says section, and now I'm back into the section options. And so centering everything in the section is going to be found in the style options for the section. So I'm going to click on style, and it's going to be hidden right here where it says typography. So when I click on that, I have typography options. So this is essentially the font options that would be global to this section only. And so what I want to change is this text align. I want that all in the center. So that is the easiest way to globally set a setting for an entire section. Now, when I make a new section, everything's going to be back on the left align. This is just going to apply to what's in this particular section right here. So now I'm going to go ahead and start styling this up a little bit, but you can see that a lot of this is actually already done. You can see I'm moving right along here. Now, before I start changing the heading, it's a little too high here. I need to have a little bit of spacing to make it look like this and push it all down. Now, there's 2 different types of spacing. One is called margin and one is called padding. Now, margin is spacing outside and padding is spacing inside. So if I added some padding, it's going to add spacing inside the section, and the margin would be adding spacing outside of the section. So I just want to push this down, but keep it all in the same section. So those options are always going to be found in the Advanced tab. So I'm going to click on Advanced, and I want to add maybe I just want to push it down some, so I'm going to add padding. Now, if I just want to add padding to the top, which is to push it down, if I start typing a number in here, it's going to add padding to the top, the bottom, the left. So if I typed 100, just like this, it's pushing it all around, and that's not what I want. I just want to push it down 100. I don't want it to have it be on the right and the left and the bottom as well. So what I need to do is, let me just delete that. You have to click on this little link right here, and that's going to unlink everything together. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my 100 in, and so that's going to give me that spacing that I was after. Now I want to start working on this heading right here, so I'm going to click on it, and so now I have the settings for that and my style in advance just for this heading. So let me go ahead and paste in what text I have for it. The most amazing course. Obviously you can put whatever you want. And for the HTML tag, since this is the first headline, I don't want it to be an H2. I want it to be a heading 1. This is more of an SEO thing, and you see it just made it a little bigger, but it's not quite the size I want it to be yet. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Style, and I'm going to turn on this typography override by clicking on this little switch here. And now I can fully customize the font, the typography for right here. And what I want to do is increase the size to 55. So I can click here and enter 55, or I can just take this dial and I can bring it across till it says 55. And there I have it, the most amazing course. And so when I look there, it's looking pretty much the same. Okay, so that is pretty much all I want to do to that headline. So now this headline right here is going to be a little different. Now, the funny thing is I've already made a mistake. This, I didn't want to be a headline, actually. I wanted it to be a normal text box. So what I need to do is delete this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this X right here to get rid of that heading, and then I'm going to click on delete to confirm it. So this is real time. You can see I'm going to make mistakes but fix them and show you that it's okay to make mistakes as well. So what I wanted to do is click on this text editor, and I wanted to squeeze that in between like that. There we go. Now let me paste in the text I have for that. Okay, so you see that when I pasted it in, it added this little extra spacing here that I don't want. Now unfortunately, sometimes WordPress does this, where if I want to go like right here where it says really, and I go back like that, it's going to pull it up to the same line, which is not what I want. But then when I hit enter, it's going to push it down, which is also not what I want. And the way you deal with that is actually really simple. You go ahead and click on this option here that says text, and it's going to show you your text, but it's going to be wrapped in some code. But I don't actually want any of that, so I'm going to highlight it like this. I'm going to delete it. And now I'm going to actually paste my text exactly the way I wanted it. And there it is right there. But you see, now I'm still on the same line. But if I click on visual, now it's going to push it down to the second line for me. So that's just one of the little quirks sometimes when you're using a visual text editor. This has nothing to do with Elementor. It's just how it is with all websites. But there we go. I just got it all on 2 lines, and that's exactly what I was after. And you can see we're pretty much looking the same right there. So next I want to style this button, and this is one of the things I love about Elementor is it's so easy to style your button to be exactly the way that you want it. So first I'm going to click on it there to pull up its settings panel. Now you can see right here where it says text, this is going to be the text for the button. So you see it says click me, and then right there it says click me. So I'm going to put in what I want, and I wanted it to say get started, just like that. Now right here is where you actually put in the link that you want someone taken to when they click on the button. So you would just go ahead and put that in there. Now I think the button's a little on the small side, and you can see right here size says small. I'm going to increase that to large, and it's just going to make the button a little bit larger. Now I can tell you though, I don't like all this spacing on the top and the bottom. I want this to be a little more narrow. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the style, and let's try to play around with that size. And the style overall. So here are our style options. So first, I actually want to override the typography a little bit. I think I want my button to be in all caps. So for typography, I'm going to turn this on. And then for transform, this is where I have the option to put whatever's entered here in uppercase. So I'm going to choose uppercase. So you can see now I have my letters in perfect uppercase. And if I wanted to change anything else, I could. If I wanted to change the size of the font, I can do all of that right here very easily. So I'm going to scroll down so that we can start changing some other style options. So the next main style option is what happens for the normal and the hover. So this is the normal color right here, and it's pulling from the accent color that we set in Elementor, but then there's also a hover color that we can set. Now we're not seeing it when I hover over, but if we collapse the editor settings right here, we can see how it looks. And we don't really have it set to anything right now when I hover over it. So let's pull our settings panel out again, and let's click on hover, and let's set a background color for a hover. So I'm going to click on that, and just go ahead and put in that other main color that we're using for this home page, just like that. So now I'm going to collapse it. And you can see when I hover over the button, the color changes. Now, obviously, you don't have to have a different color like this if you didn't want to, but I tend to like it. So that's all I wanted to do to the button color, to have that hover option right there. So now what I want to do is add some box shadow. And what that is it's going to add an effect where it kind of lifts the button up off the page. So when I show you this button here, you can see how there's a bit of a shadow here and it's lifted off the page a little bit. Now this is a very modern design trend that works very well when you use it subtly. And a lot of the different options in Elementor have this box shadow option. So I'm going to turn it on. It's actually just right here, box shadow. I'm going to turn it on, and you can see it already added the box shadow, and it looks kind of nice, right? You know, it looks like it's lifted up a little bit. But what I want to do is kind of spread that shadow out just a little bit more than it is. So let's look at these box shadow options. Now you can change the shadow color and these 4 different options here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the blur. And you can see as I increase it, it's starting to kind of spread it out some. But the problem with it now is it's spread out how I like it, but it kind of is a little too dark for me. It looks a little like there's dirt underneath the button. So when you look at it, it just looks a little dirty to me. So what I want to do is kind of lighten that up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the color. And instead of playing with this dial, I'm going to play with the one here on the right to lighten it up a little bit. So let's see. So now when I scroll down a little bit, you can see it's a lot more subtle of an effect. So let me collapse the editor. So now you can see how it looks just slightly lifted up. There's this box shadow, but it's very faint. And you can't quite put your finger on it, but it definitely looks lifted off the page some. And that was the effect that I was going after with adding this box shadow. And I use it on all the buttons on this page. I really like it. So the next thing is the size inside here where the text is from the edge of the button. And this is going to be your text padding. So I'm going to go ahead and change this here. So what I'm going to do first is unlink everything. And basically it sets all the values to 0. And you can see my button kind of just disappeared and it's now just wrapping around the text. So what I'm going to put in is 10, 50, 10, 50. So for the top, I'm going to put 10. For the right, I'm going to put 50. For the bottom, I'm going to put 10. And for the left, I'm going to put 50. And there we have this more stylish looking button. Now, doesn't that look so much better than the way the default button looked? It's got a custom spacing, this beautiful box shadow around it, and this beautiful fade when you hover over it. Now, the beauty of Elementor is if I want more buttons on this page, I don't have to go through that entire process. I could just go ahead and just duplicate this button and move it wherever I want on this template. And that's one of the things I love about Elementor. So to me, it looks like this section right here is pretty much done. It's looking close enough to how I showed you in the beginning. So now what we need to do is add a new section, and this section is going to be the one right here with this background image and these two columns. So this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced section because of all of the different tips and techniques that I'm doing to make this effect happen. So let's go back here. I'm going to click on Add New Section, and this time I'm going to add a 2-column section like this. And you can see now I have my 2-column section. So I'm going to go ahead and click on these section options. And the first thing I want to do is make the content area not as wide, not take up the full width. So what you do for that is, here is a slider to set how wide the content area is, and I'm going to set this to 900, and that's just how wide I want the space for those two boxes. Now, before I put the image in the background and manipulate that, I first want to go to the Advanced tab to add my spacing, because I don't have anything in these columns. If I don't add some spacing in there and I try to add the background image, I'm not going to really be able to see it the way that I want to see it. So what I want to do is add some padding. And remember, that's the spacing on the inside of the section. So I want to add some padding. I'm going to unlink it, and I'm going to add 140 to the top and the bottom. So now my section has a good amount of space to the top and the bottom. So now what I want to do is go back to that Style tab and start adding some style to the background of the section before I put my column information in. So what I want to do is, for the background type, I'm going to click right here where it says Classic. And then what I need to do is just choose my image. So I'm going to click on the plus. Now I've already uploaded my images, that we did that in the earlier step, and I'm going to click on Media Library, and I'm going to see all of those images right there. Now I have two of them. One of them has been cropped to be a square, and the other one is a lot wider. So this is the wide one. Right here is the square. So what I want is the wide one, just like that. And then I'm going to click on Insert Media, and you can see I have my image right there. Now for the position, that's how this image will be positioned. And I want to choose right here where it says Center, Center. And that's going to put the center of the image always in the center of this section. So now what I want to do is add a background overlay, because when you have such a vibrant image like this, it's hard to put anything on top of it, because it will just dominate whatever the content is. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Background Overlay. And I could go classic, but on this one I'm going to do a gradient, although it's going to be hard to notice the gradient because it's going to be a white and a slightly off-white color. So a gradient, it's kind of hard to explain. It's essentially where you have one color blending into another color. So for the first color here, I'm going to choose white. And so there's my white option. And it's already trying to blend into this color, which is not what I want. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to change it to this color, which is kind of an off-white. You see that? It's just a little off-white like that. Then I need to play around with this location setting right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this bar all the way across like that to 100. And then for the second color, I'm going to move this kind of in the middle to a 50, just like that. So you can see it's already starting to wash out and kind of fade that image into the background. Now, for the type of gradient, I'm going to choose a radial gradient like this. And then what I'm going to do is bump up this opacity setting. So the opacity is how much you can see through a color. So right now it's way too low, and that's why the image is so prominent still. So I'm going to move this up to, I don't know, I'll go 0.85. There we go. So now it's kind of looking like it looks there. You see how it's just perfectly blended in. But see, what's really neat about what I have here, if you look at the edges, it's kind of feathered a little bit and at the bottom. And what that is this option called a shape divider, and we can add it to the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do that now. Now there's all these different shape options right here. The one that I used was called mountains. So when I click on mountains, you can see it's already starting to be feathered in a bit. But what I do is I want to play around with the height a little bit so I have a little bit more control. And I want to set this to, say, 70. Okay, and that's just the height of the mountain effect. And you see, it's perfectly blending in now. But see, I actually want to do the same thing to the bottom. So I'm going to click on bottom, choose mountain, and why don't I go with that same 70? I like how that looks. Now, there's lots of different types of shape dividers. I'm going to be using some of them in other parts of this homepage, but I just chose the mountain one, and I really like it because when you change the height, it gives this little blended in effect to the image like that, where it just looks very good there. So now that we have the background done, we can start putting content into these two columns. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the dial pad, and if we look at what I've got done here, we've got a headline, we've got a text box, and a button. So let's just go ahead and recreate it. And what I would do is create it right here, style it right here, and then just duplicate it over there. And that's what I'm going to end up doing to save some time. So I have a heading. Now I want to get back to put my other element. So I'm going to click the dial pad. I've got this text editor like that. And then I want to put my button in there. So I'm going to go here, and remember, I think I'm just going to duplicate this button and call it a day. So I'm going to go ahead and click on duplicate, and now I have two buttons, and I can go ahead and click and drag that button down here, and that's just to save time. Now, one of the things I forgot to do in the section was to center everything. So to get back into this section, I'm going to click on section right here, and I think we found that in the style tab down here where it said typography, and we clicked on center align. So there we go. Now everything's perfectly center aligned. So now let's set up this headline here. So I'm going to click on it, and let me just paste in my content right there. And it's actually looking a little too big for me. So I'm going to change this HTML tag down to an H3, and it kind of makes it a little smaller. Typically when you go to a higher number header tag like this from H1 to H2 to H3, it's just going to make it a little smaller. But I can already tell that I'm going to need to tweak that a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll click on the Style tab right here, and let's just start styling this a little bit more. So I'm going to do a typography override. I'm going to click on there to reveal the options, and I think for the size, I might go with a 25. So let's go with a 25, just like that. Now the font is a little thicker than I'd want it to be, and that's called your font weight. So instead of the default, I'm going to go down to a 300, and you see that just made it a little thinner, which is kind of the look that I was after. And lastly, I would like to space out these lines. They're a little too close to each other, and it makes it a little hard to read. So I'm going to adjust this line height maybe to a 1.3. There we go, 1.3, and I think that's probably looking pretty similar right there. Okay, so that's looking good. Next, I'm going to want to push it in a little bit. So when you see here, I have there a little bit of spacing for the headline that isn't also with this text block. So I'm going to push that in a little bit, and that's going to be in the Advanced tab. And so I'm going to add a little bit of padding. I'm going to add about 30 to the left and 30 to the right. So 30 and 30, and that just pushed it in a little bit. That's exactly the look that I was after. So next we have this text block. I like it the way that it is. And then we have our button, and I like how that is as well. But if you noticed, I need to have the background be white, not the background of the section, just the background of this column. Now, columns have their own style settings. So when I hover over this column and click on column, just like this, now I have my edit column settings right here. So first thing, we definitely want a background color. So I'm going to click on this classic, and I need to choose white. And so there we go. Now we have that white background, which is what I wanted. Now I want to also add that back box shadow to the column. So I have the option right here where it says box shadow. I just need to turn it on and it's already giving me that box shadow. But I want to do something similar to the buttons where I spread it out. So remember, I took the blur and I bumped up the blur to 50. And then I played around with this color right here by going like this, just enough to lift it up a little bit, something like that. Now, that looks good to me right now. So now the only problem with this box is I'd like a little bit of inner padding on the top, the left and the bottom and the right. I'd like to add a little bit of padding there, and I want to do the little bit of spacing to make this one larger than the one that's going to be next to it. So I need to go into the advanced settings for the column, and what I'm going to do is for the top and the bottom for the margin, I'm going to set it to a -20. But before I do that, I have to unlink it. So I'm going to go -20. And then for the bottom, I'm going to go -20, just like that. And now I want to go ahead and add that padding. So I'm going to unlink that. And for that, I'm going to do a 60-25, just like this. So I've got 60 to the top and the bottom. And then I've got 25 to the left and the right, just like that. And now you can see I kind of scrunched it in just the amount that I wanted. So now that this box is exactly how I want it, I'm going to show you a ninja trick with Elementor, and that is duplicating columns. So instead of doing everything I just did in this column, I can click on column and it reveals these options, and there's a duplicate option, and now I just duplicated that column. But this needs to be a 2-column, not a 3-column. So I can go into this column that is empty. I can click on column, and then I can click on the little X, and then that's going to delete that column. So I just saved some time right there. Now I'm going to need to do a little trick to make it look like this column is on top of this column. So I need to get back into the column settings of this column here. I'm going to click on column. I'm going to click on advanced, and this is a little advanced. I have to add something here. It's only going to work if you are using the CSS I gave you, but we need to put something in here, and this is what we need to put on top, just like that, on top. And what that's going to do is make this appear that it's on top of this, just like you see there. You see how it's now on top. Now this is a CSS thing that we added in the customizer that essentially says if there's anything in Elementor and it says CSS class and it says on top, that it's going to appear on top of anything else that might be around it. And so that's all that is. So now we need to tweak this column a little bit, but you can see the time saver of styling through duplication like that. So I'm going to go into the column settings here like this, and I'm going to play around with the margin and padding to make it look like it's smaller and kind of in the background. So that's going to be advanced again. And so we had these -20s that we put here, but I'm going to instead put a +40. And what that's going to do is push it down like that. You see that? 40. So this is just playing around with margin and padding. And for the padding here, I'm going to play around with that a little bit. Instead of this 60, I'm going to make it 40. And this is just the top and bottom to further the effect of having it look like it's on the bottom. So there we go, and we've pretty much created that section, but the only thing left is to change the color of this button, and that's actually a really easy thing to do. So let me go back here, and then I'm going to click on the button, and I need to play around with the colors there, so I'm going to click on style. Now remember, when I scroll down, we've got the normal and the hover. So for the hover, we have this color, but I don't want it to be the hover color. I want to make it the normal color. So I'm going to copy it, and for the normal, I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. And so there is the color. But then when we hover, turn the lighter color. So I'm going to click there, and here it is actually in our color picker. So now when I hide the editor, we've got that button and we have that button. So we have this slight variation there. Now the only thing I don't like is I want to push this button down some. There's all this extra space there. So let's go ahead and click on this button, and I'm going to go ahead and add a bit of margin to push it down. So I clicked on the button, I'm going to click on advanced, I'm going to unlink it, and I'm going to put some top margin, and let's just put 50 or so. So that kind of pushes it down a little. So that looks close enough for me for us to move on. Okay, so next we have this section here, and this is actually going to be really simple to do. It's a testimonial, a section with 3 columns, and a testimonial. So I'm going to scroll down, click on Add New Section, choose 3 columns like this, and I'm going to click on the little dial pad, and I'm going to find the Testimonials element, and it's going to be under General Elements most likely. Testimonial, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it in there. Now off the bat, you can tell that we need to play around with the size of the font, the line spacing, the padding on the left and the right some, and we want to have a little bit of a box shadow. But the first thing I want to do is actually add a little bit of spacing above this section to push it further away from this section above. You never want to like have everything so tight together. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the section settings right here, and I'm going to add a bit of margin. So I'm going to go ahead and for the top and the bottom and go with that same number of 140. I think I've used that a few times, and that's going to push everything away just like that, which is exactly what I wanted. So now let's go ahead and play around with the column settings to kind of lift this off the page a little bit with some box shadow. So I'm going to click on column, and I'm going to turn on the box shadow option right there, and it's kind of lifting it up off the page, which is what I wanted. Now let me just play around with the blur a little bit. We'll go up to 50, just like we were using on the buttons that we've been doing, and I'm going to dial this down a little bit, and there we have a nice subtle box shadow that I wanted. So next what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of spacing in between these columns. So if I put a box shadow here and a box shadow here, everything's going to be kind of close together. So when you see here, I have it spaced out a little bit, and that's kind of what I want to go after for this. So we need to add a little bit of margin in between these columns here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to click on Advanced for the column, and then we have this margin tab. And so I want to add, I don't know, 20 pixels to the left and the right. So I'm going to unlink it. I'm going to add a 20 right there, and I'm going to add a 20 right there. And so now I have this perfect spacing. So when I duplicate this column 3 times, you can see I've got this perfect spacing in between the columns. Now that I think the column and the section is all set up right, let's go ahead and play around with how this testimonial itself looks. So when I click on that, here's the content for the testimonial. So I want to go ahead and paste my content in just like that. And next, I want to add a little image that could go right here. So I'm going to click on right here to add image. And why don't I go with that box image? It's a perfect square. So typically for a image where it's going to be put in a circular frame, you want it to be a perfect square. So I'm going to click on that, click on Insert Media, and there it is. Actually, that came out looking really nice. Now, one of the things I don't like about this testimonial area is the text is just a little too large for me, and I think we should make it smaller. So I'm going to click on Style, and for the content, I'm going to override the typography, but you can control the typography for the name and for the job. So we have the name and the job right there, but I want to just change this and make it a bit smaller. So I'm going to turn that on, and I think I'm going to go with maybe 20. So let's go down to 20. Like that, and it's already looking a lot better. The only thing I don't like is I want some padding in there to kind of make the words not go quite to the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and go and do that via the column settings. So I'm going to click on Column, Advanced, and I'm going to add some padding. I think I want it all the way around. So let's increase this number to where we might like it. So let's see, 18, 19, 20. That's a lot better than the way it looked before. So I guess we could stick with that, this 20 right here. I think that looks good. So now what we need to do is my duplication, column duplication trick. So even though you're going to have different testimonials, we can just duplicate these settings across, and then you can just change out the text and the image, which would be real easy. So I need 2 copies of this. So I'm on the column now, and I can click duplicate twice. And then I have to get rid of these 2 columns. So I'm going to click on column. Oops, I'm going to click on column and then delete and confirm it. And I'm going to do it to this last column right here. I'm going to delete that, and then I'm going to confirm it. And there we go. We have our 3 testimonials that are kind of lifted off the page a little bit. And they look great, actually. I really like the way that that came out. So when I go like that, it looks pretty near perfect to the example that I gave you. All right, so next what we need to do is we need to create this section, which is going to be kind of fun because we have a shape at the top and we have a shape at the bottom, and then we have these 2 columns. So let's go ahead and knock that out real quick. So I'm going to add a new section, 2 columns, and on this time I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go ahead and toss my content in there. So I know right here I have an image, so let's drag and drop the image across, and I already have it in my media library. So I can click here and I can click there and choose the image, and so there she is right there. All right, so I know it's kind of a dorky image, but I just wanted to show you the power of having an overlapping image that will overlap over the shape, so it kind of adds depth to your website. So that's the reason why I wanted to show you that. So anyways, right here it looks like we have a headline, a text box, and we have another heading but right here, but it has a different font altogether to try to make it look like a signature. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to hit the dial pad. I'm going to drop a heading. Okay, let me scroll up. Now I want to add a text editor underneath that, just like that right there. And then I want to go back and let me just duplicate this heading and make it faster. There we go. All right, so here is my content right here. Now, you notice there's a problem. The content is appearing at the top, yet I would probably want it to be in the middle there. And this is actually a really cool feature. In a column, you can actually have it centered. So if I click on this column right here, and then I go into the layout option, there's this content position option. And so by default, it's going to be at the top, but I want it to be in the middle. So it's going to push all that content perfectly in the middle, just like that. So now what I need to do is now start styling this section. It'll be pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and click on section, and I'm going to go to style, and I want to make that background color with the background shape. So actually here I did a gradient. It's a very slight gradient where it's lighter to darker, but for the sake of time I'm just going to use the same color right here. So I'm just going to paste that in. And there it is. So we're missing our shapes, and we have to change the color of all of these fonts right here. So let's first go to typography, and for heading color, I'm going to make it globally white, just like that. And then for the text color, I'll go ahead and make that globally white like that. Oh, it's not showing it white here. Let me just go ahead and click on here, and then go into the style of that actual element and change the color right there. Okay, there we go. Now we have everything white, which is what I wanted. So now let me get back into the section settings, because we're going to add that really cool shape. Now the shape I'm using is called the tilt. So I need to go back into style, and I'm going to do a tilt on the top and the bottom. So here's my shape divider. And for the top, I'm going to go and pop in the tilt option. Well, and there it is. It's actually pretty much done already. And so for the bottom, I'm pretty much going to do the same tilt, just like that. And you can see how easy it was to get that tilt action. And you can play around with the tilt, the shape of the tilt, and the angle of the tilt, but I'm just going to leave it at that for the sake of time. You don't need to see me style these elements right here because you've seen that before. However, this signature right here, let me click on that and show you. It's just a simple typography override. So when I click on style and I turn on the typography override, it's just a different font. And so I went to Google and I Googled Google handwriting font, and I came up with this font that's called Just Another Hand. There it is, Just Another Hand. And when I click on it, there it is. You see how it just added that right there. And so I, made it larger, and I put Jane Doe, and that's all I did in order to get that to look kind of handwritten. So that's all we have to do for that section there. Next, we have this alternating section, and it's going to be pretty quick. We just have headline, text, and we have an image. So let me show you how to do that. And I think what I did is, well, first let's add a new section, and it's going to be the 2 columns like this. Let me just go ahead and add my image. So I'm going to click on the dial pad. I'm going to drag and drop this image in right there. And now I'm going to choose that image, and it's going to be the square image of the 2 women. And I'm going to click on Insert Media. And now what I need to do is kind of make it smaller and round, and then add the box shadow. And it's actually really easy. So it's just the Style tab for the image right here, and it's a simple border radius right here. So see what happens is I increase it. You can see the corners start to go in. And if I keep going up and I go up to 290, it's going to end up being a perfect circle. Now, it's kind of hard to see that it's a perfect circle because the image is light in color and the background is white. So I just need to go up to about 290 like that, which is a perfect circle. Turn on my box shadow, and we've been doing this a lot, where I increase the blur to 50 and then I lower this some. So that shouldn't be anything new. And there we have it. But the thing is the image is just a little too large for the area. So what I did is added some padding. So I'm going to click on Advanced, and for the padding, let me unlink it, and let's add 60 to the left and right. So I'm going to add 60 to the right, 60 to the left, and now we have that circle right there, which is really perfect. So we have the image, it's in a perfect circle, and it's lifted up the page a little bit. Now all we need is a headline and some text right here. And honestly, where I got that from is I just duplicated this. So I'm going to duplicate my headline, and I'm going to drag it on down and drop it in there. And then I did the same thing for this body of text. I duplicated it, and I'm going to drag and drop it down there. This duplication is how you can be more consistent with the styles on your page. So now I need to center this content in the column, and once again you click on column like that, and then you go to layout, and we're going to put that in the middle just like that. Oops, I have that little bit of padding from this style that I want to remove. Let me click on that and remove this padding. There we go. Padding is now gone. All right, so we have that, and then on the section I might want to push it down a little bit with some margin. So I'm going to click on Section, I'm going to click on Advanced. I'll add about 80 to the top like this to push it down some, and because I'm going to alternate this, I'm going to only put 20 on the bottom like that. So there we have it. We have that section. So now all I need to do is duplicate this section. You've seen me duplicate elements, and you've seen me duplicate columns, but you haven't seen me duplicate an entire section. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to click on Section right here, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. 1, 2. So there we have it 3 times, but I just need to kind of flip these contents, and there's no trick to it. I'm just going to drag and drop this in there like that, and then I'm going to drag and drop that there, and I'm going to drag and drop that there. Let me make sure the headline's on the top, and then I need to center this content for this column. Click on Column, go to Layout, and then put that in the middle just like that. So now we already did our 3 sections where the content alternated like that. And so Now we are down here to this beautiful pricing table. Now, like I said, this pricing table is part of the Elementor Pro package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to add a new section with 3 columns like this, and this will be the pricing table and the 3 sections there. I'm going to go ahead and click on my dial pad, and right here are the different Pro elements that are available right now. So I'm going to drag and drop in this pricing table, and there is no more powerful pricing table that I've ever come across than this one that comes with Elementor Pro. The beauty is you're going to be working with the same interface that you've already gotten to know, and you're going to be able to build the most flexible, powerful, beautiful pricing tables that I have ever seen. Now, I didn't really spend a lot of time customizing it, but there's all these little elements. You can pretty much change everything on it. So first thing I want to do is style out my section. I'm going to just add a bit of margin to the top and the bottom. And so here it is. I'm going to add 100 to the top and bottom to space it down from there a little bit. And next I'm going to go ahead and add some to the column as well, so these columns aren't so close to each other. So I'm going to go to advanced, and I'm going to add 20 to the left and the right. So let me unlink it. I'm going to add 20 to the left, 20 to the right, just like that. So it's just scrunched in a little bit. Okay, now let's play around with the colors of the element here. So I'm going to click on it, and it's just so easy to work with this element. It's amazing. But all I'm going to do right now is play around with the style. So the header, that's kind of a dull color. I'm going to change the background to this right here, and it just makes it pop a little bit, and it's consistency of colors across the board. And I don't like this gray right here. I'm going to go ahead and change that to white. So I need to do that in each individual section of this pricing table. So for pricing, I need to expand it and change the color to white. And you see how it just does the pricing part? So let me collapse that. I need to do the same thing for features. I'm going to change that to white. And then I need to do that for footer. Change that to white. And then lastly, we have this ribbon. I'm going to keep the ribbon on the middle pricing table, and the way you do it is you just click right here, and that's it for the colors. And last thing I really want to do is add my box shadow, but I just want to add it to the pricing table. So what I need to do is go into the advanced settings, and when I scroll down, it's right here under background and border. And there's that same familiar box shadow. So let me turn that on. I'm going to stick with the blur up at 50, and I'm going to change this dial just a little bit. And now we have that perfect box shadow effect. Now, time saver again, I'm going to duplicate this across. Now, what I didn't show you in the pricing table is how easy it is to edit all of the content. Here's your title, your subtitle. You see that there. Here is your pricing. You see that there. You can change the currency to all these various currencies right there. Here's the feature box. You can add those there. Here's the footer, which is essentially this button, and you can change where that button goes. And then you can have the ribbon changed. So right now it says popular, but you can move the side that it's on, and you can change what it says, and you can even disable it. So now I need to just duplicate my column and then get rid of these two here. I'm going to click on column. I'm going to duplicate it twice, and then I'm going to click on this column to remove, just like that. And I'm going to click on this column to remove, just like that. And I need to remove the ribbon on these left and right price table. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go down to the ribbon. I'm going to turn it off. And then on this one, I'm going to do the same thing, click on it and turn that ribbon off. And so let me go like that, and you can see we just built a beautiful pricing table. And there's so many different options. It's just mind-boggling with this price table, but you can see it's identical there. It only took a couple minutes to do. So lastly, right here, I think you get the point. It's just a section with a headline and a button and all that. And I took these from other places on the site. So if you hung in for this entire video, we built this beautiful page right here. Let me click save. And then let me show you from the top to the bottom. We did this in a very short period of time, and through it, you learned all of the advanced methods to have the most impactful design for your website. You can see the subtle use of the box shadow. We're using these background shapes right here. We're making images into a perfect circle and then lifting them off the page a little bit. And we've created this beautiful, beautiful pricing table. But like I said, you don't have to build it yourself. You could just restore the template that I included. So that is it for creating a beautiful homepage with Elementor and optionally Elementor Pro.